Hello, y'all. Welcome to the Unit 1 review for your test retake opportunity. All right, so if we look at this one, oops, it got cut off. Hang on. It says create your own equation with variables on both sides that has 3 or more steps. Then solve the equation and justify each step by listing out the name of the property that you used to solve the equation. All right, so the first thing is writing your own equation. And y'all, I don't want you to stress about this too much. It doesn't matter if your answer comes out pretty or if it ends up as like a fraction. So really just put some letters and numbers out there. This is the equation that I came up with. I did 2 parentheses x plus 1 equals 4x plus 3. Obviously, you cannot use the same equation, but this is just an example. So here we go. Anytime I do an equation, I like to draw my line down the equal sign. And then I'm going to go ahead and take care of these parentheses first. So I'm going to distribute 2 times x and 2 times 1. So 2 times x is 2x and 2 times 1 is 2. And then next to that, I would put distribute because that's what I did to begin with. All right. Now I am going to box off my x's. I find my x's and box them off, and I have x's on both sides. I have a 2x on one side and a 4x on the other. It doesn't matter how you move these. I always like to move my smallest one so that I end up with a positive number. So I'm going to move 2x, and right now it's a positive 2x, so the opposite of positive 2x is to subtract 2x from each side. So for the thing you'd put subtract or subtraction property. The 2x minus 2x cancels, bring this one straight down. 4x's minus 2x's would leave us with 2x's, and then bring my plus 3 straight down. And if you needed to write a step for that, that would just be simplify. All right, now I still like to box off my x. And then I look and say, well, what do I need to get rid of? What's on the same side as the x? And in this case, I need to get rid of plus 3. The opposite of adding 3 is subtracting 3. So I would subtract 3 from each side, and then I would simplify. The 2x is going to come straight down. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. And now I'm still trying to get that x by itself, so I need to get rid of the 2. And right now it's times 2. It's 2 times x, so the opposite of multiplying is dividing. I would divide each side by 2. And this is what I was talking about. It doesn't matter if your answers end up pretty or not. I'm going to leave this as a fraction, so my answer is going to be negative 1/2. You might end up with something ugly like negative 3/7. It doesn't matter. We're just trying to make sure that you know the steps. So let's see. I need to write the rest of these in. We subtracted, and then we simplified, and then we divided. All right, let's check out the next one. 260 students went on a field trip. 5 buses were filled and 10 students traveled in cars. How many students were in each bus? So the first thing it wants us to do is write out an equation. All right, so when I write an equation, I need to be able to identify some things. First thing I need to know is what the total is. So the total is 260 students. That means in my equation, I'm going to write equals 260. All right, then I need to figure out what my variable is, and we want to know how many students are in each bus. So you can either let bus be letter X or B or whatever you want it to be. I'm going to let it be letter X. I know that I have 5 buses, so I'm going to go ahead and write 5X. And then I also know that 10 students traveled in cars, and I'm going to add that to the 5 buses because those are additional students. So that will be my equation. And now we want to solve the equation, so I'm going to do that over here in blue. 5x plus 10 equals 260. Whoops. Draw my line down the equal sign. Box off my x. 10 is on the same side. I need to get rid of it. Since it's plus 10, I'm going to subtract 10 from each side. And then simplify. And now I need to get rid of the 5. Since it's times 5, I'm going to divide each side by 5 because those are opposite operations. So when I solved for this, I found out that the number of students on each bus, which I labeled as X, is going to be 50. So this was step 2 with solving. So there's 50 students on each bus, and then step 3 says write the names or properties you use to justify each step. All right, so here we subtracted, then we simplified, then we divided. All right, solve the equation and justify your steps. All right, so again, we want to solve it and write the names for each step. So let's get through this one. -6 times x minus 7 equals 54. I'm going to draw my line down my equal sign, and I'm going to find my x, and in this case, I need to distribute. I got to always get rid of parentheses first. So I'm going to do -6 times x and -6 times -7. -6 times x is -6x, and -6 times -7 is positive 42. And you can just throw that in your calculator if you didn't know it off the top of your head. So the first thing I did was I distributed. And then after I distribute, I'm going to go ahead and find my x. Positive 42 is on the same side. I need to get rid of it. The opposite of adding 42 is subtracting 42. I'm going to subtract 42 from each side. I'm just going to bring that -6x straight down. And then I'm going to simplify. So I guess I should write all this out. Subtract, simplify. 54 minus 42, let's see, that's 12. And then I still have to get the x by itself, and this one confuses a lot of students. They see the -6 and they think that they have to add 6. But between the 6 and the x, we are not subtracting. We're not subtracting between them. We're actually multiplying. It's negative. Remember up here when we distribute, we did -6 times x. So the opposite of multiplying is dividing. We want to divide each side by -6. We do not want to add 6 there because it doesn't say 6 minus x or x minus 6. We're actually multiplying. So here we are going to divide and simplify, and we get x equals -2. Let's check out the next one. Solve the equation. All right, I love solving equations. We're going to draw our line down the equal sign. We're going to box off our letter. I need to get rid of the 11 first. It's positive, so I'm going to subtract it. Subtract 11 from each side. And this is what we just talked about last time. We are not going to add 10 to each side because it doesn't say that we're subtracting 10. It actually says that we're multiplying by -10. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide. We're going to divide each side by -10. And n will equal -18. All right, we're going to solve on this one. I'm going to draw my line, box off my letter, and I need to get rid of that -10, so I'm going to add 10 to each side. Oops, that's a -138. I almost added 10. So if a -138 plus 10, we would end up with -128. And then again, we're not going to add 4 to each side because we're not subtracting. We're actually multiplying. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide each side by -4. And then I'm going to use my calculator. 128 divided by 4. Whoop, I could type it incorrect. And a negative divided by a negative makes a positive 32. Solving again. I'm going to write this a little bit bigger. Okay, so we got to get rid of our parentheses first. We're going to do that by distributing. 7 times 4 is 28. And then we also have to distribute to this one. So 4 times n is 4 times n, 4n. I'm going to find that letter, and then I'm going to get rid of 28. Right now we're adding 28, so the opposite is to subtract 28. Bring this straight down. -4 minus 28 is actually going to give us -32. And then we're multiplying. The opposite of multiplying is to divide. And that will give us -8. Solve the inequality and graph it on a number line. Okay, so I'm still going to treat the inequality symbol like an equal sign. And what I mean by that is I'm still going to draw a line down it because that still helps me remember that whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. So just like an equation, I'm trying to get the x by itself. So I'm going to get rid of the plus 1 first by subtracting 1 from each side. 3 minus 1 is 2. Now I'm still trying to get that x by itself. Right now I'm dividing by 6. The opposite would be to multiply by 6. Now the only thing I have to be careful of is if you ever multiply or divide by a negative, you have to flip your inequality. But in this case, we did not multiply by a negative. We multiplied by positive 6, so we don't flip our inequality. But when I go to graph, I always want my x to come first. So I'm just going to rewrite this. I'm going to put x on this side and 12 on this side. And I'm going to make sure right now the alligator mouth or the inequality is eating the 12. So when I rewrite it, I just want to make sure that it is still open or eating the 12. And then when I go to graph, I need to go to a number line. We'll just put that as 0 and this is 12. Since it doesn't have the equal to line, I know it's an open circle on 12. And then I draw the arrow in whatever way it's pointing. So if you draw an arrow through your inequality sign, that tells you which direction to draw your arrow. Let's look at a few more of those. All right, so if I solve this equation, I'm going to draw my line down the inequality sign, box off my letter. I'm going to get rid of the 1 first. 9 minus 1 is 8. And then I'm going to get rid of the 4, so I'm going to divide each side by 4. And since I divided by a positive, I do not have to flip the inequality. And in this case, it's already in the right order. I have my letter first, so I don't have to do anything. Just go to a number line and graph it. So let's just make this 0. Let's make this 2. It does not say equal to, so it's an open circle on the number 2. And then you just kind of make your inequality an arrow, and that will tell you which way to draw your line. All right, we're going to solve this equation. We're going to start off by distributing. Negative 4 times b is negative 4b. Negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. And I'm just going to bring this side straight down. Now I'm going to find my letter. I have a negative 4b over here and a negative 7b over here. I need to get those to the same side. And I always like to move the smallest one. In this case, negative 7 is the smallest. So I'm going to move that by adding 7b to each side. So I end up with 3b, and then I'm just going to bring everything else straight down. I'm still finding my letter, and I'm still trying to get it by itself, so I need to get rid of negative 12, so I'm going to add 12 to each side. Whoops. (3b) equals 36. The opposite of multiplying by b is dividing, so I'm going to divide each side by 3, and b will equal 12. All right, solve the inequality and graph it on a number line. So I'm still going to pretend like I'm still going to draw my line there, and I'm still going to find my letter. And I'm going to solve it just like an equation. I got to get rid of the positive 13, so I'm going to subtract 13 from each side. And negative 176 minus 13 is negative 189. Then I'm going to divide each side by 9. 189 divided by 9 is negative 21. Now I can't go and graph this yet until my letter comes first. So I'm going to put my letter first and negative 21 second. And then I'm just going to make sure that my inequality mouth is still open to or eating the letter M. And then I can go to a number line. I'm just going to say that this is positive. Oh, I'm doing negative 21. Oops. All right, well, just scratch that. We'll say that this one's 0 and this one's negative 21. Oh, let me erase that. That looks terrible. Okay. So we need to put an open circle on negative 21, and then we need to look at our inequality mouth and draw our arrow in the direction that tells us to. I hope this helps. Good luck on your Unit 1 test retake.